Hi, I'm Mark Stone. Welcome to episode 3 of Stoney's piece for A1TV. And today we've got a wonderful guest. Last week we spoke to an up-and-coming cricketer with the Melbourne Renegades, Peter Hatzoglou. Well, today we've got one better. We're going with his father, Nick Hatzoglou, and his story is amazing. I met Nick many years ago, probably over 20 years ago, I think, now that I've met Nick. And Nick's story of how he got involved with local sport, local cricket, and then went through AFL, SBS, world football, a couple of stints there. So it's a really interesting story. But I want to welcome Nick to the show. Welcome to A1TV, Nick. And your story is amazing.
Great to be. Thanks for those kind words. Great to be on A1TV with you, Mark. Yeah, look, it's an interesting story, but I think it's a great story for Australia. So I look forward to sharing that with you over the next period of time.
So I suppose let's go right back, Nick. And for those who don't know, Sunshine Heights Cricket Club is in the western part of Melbourne, near Footscray, deep in the western suburbs. How did you come to be involved with a club called Sunshine Heights Cricket Club?
Thanks for that question, Mark. And look, I'm really proud to say that Sunshine Heights Cricket Club is very dear to me. And it all started when I was well, it started in primary school with a teacher named Graham Lloyd, who used to, at recess and lunchtime, round up all us Greek kids and Maltese kids and Italian kids and play cricket with us. And, you know, we knew that cricket was a really important Australian cultural icon. And, you know, it was all over the TV in summer. And we knew that that was a big deal. So we started playing the sport in primary school, and we became quite competent, and we knew all the rules, and we could bat and bowl, and we were quite passionate about it. But then, you know, when I got to the age of 10 years of age, you know, something compelling happened, and a friend of mine, Tom Alexiadis, said to me, "Why don't you come down and play cricket at the Sunshine Heights Cricket Club?" And so, you know, I took his invitation up, and we went down, and soon enough, Les Dignam was the guy, and Les was in his work clothes. You know, I'm not sure where he was working, but he'd come after training and to give back to the community and to the Sunshine Heights Cricket Club. And Les would teach us the forward defence, and I'd be looking at him and taking in everything, because I thought that was the most important thing in life, that you had to learn how to play the forward defence. And that's how it all started. But there's a backstory to that. And, you know, the West Sunshine area is a very multicultural area. A lot of migrants from Europe chose to start a new life, and they were invited to come to Australia. And a lot of them settled in West Sunshine and never knew anything about cricket. So the Sunshine Heights Cricket Club was, in those days, managed and run and founded by mainly Anglo-Celtic Australians. And they must have been looking around, and subsequently they've relayed this story to me, but they had a choice to make. They could have embraced all these kids, all these sons, and in those days it was, you know, all the boys mainly. And, you know, they could have embraced us, and I'm grateful that they did, but they could have also shut the doors and said, look, these kids they'll never get it, and their parents will never support them. So they made the choice of embracing us and really became our surrogate parents on weekends and during the week with training. It's a great story. And for me, that lesson stayed with me right up until this day, where, you know, embrace people, bring them in, teach them the game, get them part of what is Australia, one of Australia's favourite pastimes. And the rest is sort of history now. There's lots of benefits come from that.
So look at Sunshine Heights. For those people who don't know, it's made up of, and you're going to tell me this stat because it's amazing. I think I know this, but I'm going to let you tell the story. Backgrounds, history of the club, you know, the different levels of multiculturalism that the club goes. Won many awards over many years for its excellence in multicultural relationships between different cultures. And we've even got a Pakistani audience today and watching this and listening to this. So tell us a bit about the makeup of the Sunshine Heights Cricket Club and what the strength behind it is.
So we embraced that philosophy, Mark. We were always about a club that took in the other. And a lot of clubs that we play against, they're a bit slow to uptake, and they, weren't quite as readily or weren't as culturally competent to embrace people from all different backgrounds. We had that empathy because it was really our own journey, and we would always be empathetic to people that their parents weren't supportive, or they didn't have all the gear, or they spoke another language. So we had that insight, and we just, any barriers, we just overcame them, and we were a welcoming place. And I think that's been part of our DNA. It's really strengthened the club, and it's allowed us to win many awards and accolades. But that's not why we do it. We do it because it really it strengthens the club, but it also, it's the right thing to do in a community like West Sunshine, where you have so many different settlers or people coming from all different faiths and backgrounds and religions and races. So it was the right thing to do. And, at one count, we were up to about 38 different nationalities. That's gone down a bit these days because, we haven't got as many people settling in the area from those diverse backgrounds. But yeah, it got up to about 38 on one count.
It's very good. Now, well, before we get into your career, I want to talk about, you have 2 sons?
Four sons.
Four sons, what ages?
So Peter's 22, Maxie's 19, Leo's 17, and Alexander's 16.
They all play cricket?
They all play cricket and other sports.
Now, we spoke to Peter last week, and his rise through the ranks, has that always surprised you, Nick, that he's gone? Obviously, he's playing in Adelaide now for Prospect Cricket Club, and we spoke to him about last week about his Renegades and how that come about. Are you surprised by, and I know you're his dad, so are you surprised by his rise in his performance?
Oh, look, I must say, we were expecting, when he got the invitation to participate with the Renegades, we thought, look, if he hangs in there and gets a high performance or elite experience, that'll be great. But he did, he took his chances. Look, at times, things didn't go his way, but I think that self-belief that he had, he was able to conquer any doubt. And look, we were certainly stoked, and it was a great, unbelievable summer watching Peter and the Renegades. I mean, the team didn't do so well, which was disappointing, but that's sport, and particularly BBL. But look, we and he enjoyed the experience, and I think that self-belief really drove him through.
And this is one last question on Pete, because I'll move to you. Just with he bowls fast leg spin, right? Now, he wasn't always a spinner, but have you seen him progress through his delivery, or how he goes about his art form?
Yeah, look, it's it's been interesting because he started out as a sort of a medium fast bowler, which I was pleased about. But one day, his coach in junior ranks was Matthew Shawcross, and I think he encouraged him to try leg spin. And when I first heard about it, I must say I was glad it wasn't off spin. But leg spin, I thought, oh yeah, let's see where it takes him. And look, it definitely was an amazing choice for him because he's a tall lad, and he does push it through. I think that's the legacy of his medium pace, fast, bowling experience. So pushes him through, and he's only learning his craft. It's still, he's in that embryonic stage. He's still learning a lot of things. So it'll be interesting to see how he progresses with some, really good coaching.
Now, Nick, let's have a look at your career. And I know that was the AFL your first, because you were 6 years at the AFL in a multicultural role. Was that your first big role in the area? And tell listeners what your specialty is.
Yeah, look, I probably cut my teeth. I went back to university, and I studied at the Ballarat University, and I did human movement in sports admin and marketing. That was fantastic for me because that was my passion. So I was right into my uni studies. I wouldn't miss a lecture or shoot. I would go and see lecturers. I was right into it. It was definitely the thing that I wanted to do. So that was at the age of 30. Before that, I worked in, I did environmental health at Swinburne, and I was always interested in the environment. And you know, but look, sport was my passion. So my first big role was the AFL, but before that, I worked in local government in the sports area,
Yeah,
and that was
yeah.
a great sort of learning curve because you know it was about community and a lot of the lessons that I learned at Sunshine Heights Cricket Club, I was able to bring them with me because I knew that if you embrace people from all backgrounds and skills, that the community more broadly can benefit. So, you know, one day I was working at Cricket Victoria actually as a community access officer. You know, really, you know, Cricket Victoria would come to see me quite often and ask me about how do we get more multicultural kids playing cricket. And I think after the third time, someone by the name of John Harris said to me, "What are you doing? You know, do you want to come and work for us?" And you know, obviously I was passionate about cricket, so yeah, I got a cricket job, and then I could go on and on. But look, then whilst I was working at cricket, I combined that with a role at Centre for Multicultural Youth.
Yeah, I was just going to say, let's just stop there because I want to ask you about that cricket role. Because I'm actually, as you know, I've been in community sport with media and stuff like that. So the community cricket role, because I've always wondered, what does a community development officer do? Like in cricket or any sport, right? So what was your specific role in that cricket role when you first started in that?
So that initial role with John Harris and Cricket Victoria was about community access, and that was all about me using my experience, my own journey, to help the system become more embracing of people from different backgrounds. And so we produced some resources. I would go out and work with individual clubs that were located in those areas where there were a lot of migrants or migrant children. So, you know, that was probably, you know, cricket's first foray into embracing, you know, those people because, you know, the sport realised that Australia was becoming very culturally diverse, and cricket needed to move, you know, to embrace people from all backgrounds because that was going to be great for the sport.
What was Nick? What was one of the again? I'm like because I'm thinking on the run here. What was one of the activities that if you're going out to a group of people at school, what would be the one activity that would engage girls and boys to play the game of cricket? What was the one thing or one exercise or activity that you did to make that happen? Just one.
Yeah, look, Mark, you know, a couple of things, but the one thing was, you know, letting the children know that in my instance with multicultural communities, that cricket could be a great resettlement tool for their families. And for the parents, it was a lesson because every parent wants their kid to be happy, settle into school, concentrate on their studies, but have fun. So we would talk about how cricket can help their resettlement, how it can help their everyday experience at school, in the community. And that was something that was, you know, a real highlight when engaging with the parents, because at a young age, the children, you know, often don't make their own decisions. It's the parents that make the decisions. So it was really important to convey that, but also establishing trust with the parents that you got good values as a community club. It's a safe place to be, and it's welcoming of all different cultures. So they're probably the two major things. And, you know, establishing trust, you know, is really important.
So, so is that the sort of thing we mentioned before that you spent, you know, 6 years at the AFL? Was that a similar role to the cricket role? Is that what you're doing at AFL? That sort of role?
Yeah. So being a boy that's grown up in Melbourne, you know, I was born here, and you know, AFL became part of who we were. You know, every day we would, you know, talk about who's playing. I'm a Collingwood supporter, and you know, we followed Dacos, and you know, it was a really important part of our upbringing in winter. We always had soccer. That was our default sport. My father, the first place he took me was the Western Suburbs Soccer Club, which was a neighbouring club. It was a Greek background club, and you know, that's where he took me. But you know, AFL was a big part of our upbringing, and particularly we could see people, you know, that reflected us, like Dacos, and there was a whole lot of you know, others like Dipper and, you know, lots and lots of names that, you know, that were from similar backgrounds. Yeah. So, so we, oh, geez, I've forgotten the question, but
no, it was about the
AFL, that's right. Yeah. So AFL became, when they came knocking, because I was told to apply, and I got really excited because the AFL was a great brand to work in. Particularly at that stage, I was qualified with my, you know, sports admin and marketing, and essentially what they wanted me to do was to start up the multicultural program. Andrew Demetrio was the CEO at the time, and I knew that I never met Andrew beforehand, but I knew that with him at the helm, we would have, you know, some great opportunity to really embrace, you know, and to connect with multicultural Australia, particularly using the AFL brand. So I was put on, and you know, it was around 2005. It was an amazing day. I was so happy. It was sad to be leaving cricket, but it was just too good of an opportunity. And I remember my first week at the AFL, I caught up with Ken Jacobs, who was the CEO at Cricket Victoria, and he came in to see me, and we had a meeting. It was a bit strange, but you know, Ken was someone I admired, and I remember towards the end of the meeting, he said, "Do you want to come back?" And I didn't want to let Ken down, you know, and but I thought, no, and there's no way, no, I'm leaving the AFL. I said, "Ken, I can't, you know, I'm really committed to this now." I was so excited, but it was a strange thing to say, but you know, to this day, me and Ken are great friends.
And then we move on to world football and soccer, and you know, the biggest game in the world, and played all around the world. How did that come about? And you've had a couple of stints there, or I think you had a year there possibly before, but tell us about how that evolved and what you do with your role.
So I was always, well, look, cricket, AFL and soccer, football, soccer are my three loves in sport. And, you know, I've got a deep knowledge and connection with each one. So, you know, when I'm working for AFL and if some people are critical of soccer, it you know, it affects me if I'm in cricket, and the same thing. And if I'm in soccer and they're criticising cricket, then I feel uncomfortable. But yeah, so
just the world game and how that evolved, and you know what you actually do, your role is there.
Yeah, so sorry, Mark, about that. But look, football, soccer was a default sport for me. But the one thing that made me sort of really tune into it was, I think in Australia it gets a bad rap. Now, a lot of it is probably due to internal conflicts and politics and stuff, and you know, it doesn't endear the sport to the rest of the population. But there is so much systemic bias, you know, whether that's the media, whether that's government institutions, funding bodies. There's a lot of systemic bias, and I always thought that was unfair. So that was something that drew me into football. I really wanted to see equality. It's the world behemoth, as you said. You know, everywhere you go in the world, it's so popular. And I thought in Australia it doesn't get a fair crack at it. So I always aspired to end up in football. I always thought that's where I'd like to go, but I didn't want to go there in the early stages of my career, because I don't think I would have become the person I am and the values I have and the skill set if I had gone to football too early. So, you know, every time I tell a story, every time I used to bump into Peter Philopoulos, who was someone that I met early on when he was at South Melbourne, I'd bump into him at airports, or we'd just cross paths, and straight away I would talk to him about soccer, about football, and I would say to him, why aren't they doing this, and why don't they do that, and what's your take on this? And then when social media became apparent, Peter and I would debate with a whole lot of people. So, you know, it was my destiny, and I think with Peter becoming the CEO at Football Victoria, he, you know, quickly contacted me when I was at Cricket Australia, and he said, look, I've got a role for you to be head of community or head of diversity and inclusion, and I took it. It was a great timing, and it was great to finally work with Peter Filopoulos.
So what is that role entail? It's a big role, Nick. What is it? You know, where did you start, and what's it evolved to now?
So I commenced working with Peter and the team at Football Victoria. I had oversight of the Indigenous program, multicultural, all our access for all abilities, walking football, the LGBTI plus communities, all the rainbow communities. And then, you know, there was a whole lot of other stuff that was sort of more day to day. So it was a wonderful, and it still is, it's a wonderful role. I've got a great team, and we're the heart of the organisation. You know, we've got our competitions and tribunal, and it's pretty tough going in that space. You know, one minute we're helping clubs, and the next minute we're fining them or we're taking points away. So it's a real challenge to get that right. But in my space, you know, we're really building capability of our volunteers. We're supporting them. We're running great programs for kids with different abilities, you know, connecting with groups that are maybe a little bit ostracized or they're not as reflected in our sport. And every day it's really motivating. I jump out of bed and excited to sort of lead that role.
And participation rate in soccer or world soccer, world football, is that increasing? And it goes, as you said, diversifying over different groups, but participation is growing, Nick?
It sure is. That was one thing that, you know, that was so apparent to me when I came across from Cricket Australia, that we had customers. You know, there was people playing the game. They would be organising themselves, not necessarily all affiliated with Football Victoria, but they certainly play the games. And one of our biggest challenges is to embrace them into the structured system or offer them social forms of the game, where not everyone wants to consume the game, you know, in a competition sense in a league, but others just want to play it socially, for fitness, for fun. So the challenge for us is to get them across into our system, into our affiliation.
Now, you've come across the whole gamut: world football, cricket, AFL, and also you've had a stint at SBS as a consultant there. All right, what do they call it? An advisory committee. What was that about?
So SBS was always something my parents, would tune in. That'll be something that, you know, was like sort of the commercial challenge for channels for me, but they would tune into SBS. So over time, I became a huge supporter of SBS because, again, you know, it was a bit different. It reflected multicultural Australia, contemporary Australia, and so I was invited to be part of the advisory board, and that was a happy day for me. And I was on it for, how long did you say? 4 or 5 years? Yeah, 4 years. Yeah, it was great times. We would be invited to Sydney, to Artarmon, where the head office is, or sometimes we'd meet at Fed Square in Melbourne. They've got a studio there, and look, it was great to partake in that and to provide opinions of what I was seeing in community, particularly from a sporting sense. They're 4 great years.
Now, I've got a last couple of questions, Nick, for you. Do you wake up every day? We've just spoken for 25 minutes, right, of about yourself and young Peter's careers. Do you wake up and say, I'm living a dream? I don't really work. I actually work in my passion. It seems a dream. There's a lot of hard work, because I know what a lot of hard work you've done. But do you say to yourself, I'm the luckiest person alive?
Mark, you're right. I am very lucky. And I do, when I reflect sometimes, or I might get down about something, I quickly snap out of it. And I've got a saying, you know, that's a first world problem. That's a first world problem. So, look, my life is blessed. You know, I've got 4 wonderful kids, and my wife, Susan, is very supportive of everything we do as a family. I've got a great club, great friends. But, you know, there's challenges along the way. And that's life, you know. I never want to be a victim. I want to be a victor. You know, I just heard that saying recently.
I love it.
There's no losses, just learning. So you learn from everything. And I'm at the stage now in life where I try and offset that and my experience, and I want to share that with other people. And I don't want people to. I want us to progress as a society and embrace. You know, I worry about some of the things that are happening, but I want us to keep progressing, build on our solid foundation and what makes Australia fantastic. And you know, a big part of that is connecting more with our Indigenous community. It's so important. I think that's something it's a dark cloud hanging over us all, and we've got to get that right. So, you know, connecting with Indigenous Australia is something that I'm really passionate about right now.
And the last one is that you, I'm going to ask this question at the end. You're still rolling the arm over, Nick. You're still having a game of cricket.
Yeah, I think I keep saying I think I'm just going to die on the cricket field. I still enjoy the game. Look, for a long time, I was able to, you know, cherish the experience where I played with my boys in the same team, and that was on turf, which is a real luxury in Australia. And you know, they saw me in a different light. We had great experience, so that kept me interested in the game, you know, for a longer period of time. And you know, I've got some great friends. We connect through the club and playing. The challenge of, you know, being in a sporting contest is still something that you know, motivates me. But I think more importantly, I'm more of an organizer these days. I want to create an environment where the kids coming up are going to have an enjoyable experience. It's played with, you know, the spirit of cricket, everyone gets a go, and all those things that are really important. I more or less am the facilitator of that these days.
What's your role? Have you got a role? Have you got an official role at the club, the Sunshine Heights Cricket Club?
Well, I'm the president at the moment, but yeah, I'm looking to have a succession plan with that, and it's important. I think I'm like a strong figure that's been around forever, but I've been in different roles. But look, I'm looking, you know, to hand it over to someone. I was captain of the sea turf team, but we handed it over to a young guy, Hosnain Rezai. He's Afghani, Pakistani. He's doing a superb job, and that's just reminded me of how important it is to support the newcomers.
That's good. Well, Nick Hatzoglou, thanks for joining us on A1TV. You're episode 3. So make sure you tune in next week for episode 4 of the A1TV on Stoney's piece, and we'll have another really interesting guest. And I might go down the path of cricket now. So I love this cricket stuff, but there's other sports we can look at. So Nick, thanks very much.
Thanks, Mark. All the best.